Hello and welcome to the Metapod Pokemon TCG podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. I am back from the dead. Moderna got last time we talked, Sean. I had just gotten the Moderna, and immediately 12 hours later, the Moderna really got me. Ooh,
Yeah.
she kicked my butt. Sean.
I will say, Jake, maybe you'll take the full brunt of it on the first shot, but like prepare for the second then. Because
That's what I'm thinking, but it's like with my body, I don't know, my immune, like I don't really ever get sick, but I also don't really do anything. So I have like barely an opportunity to get sick. So I have a conspiracy theory that my immune system is actually just trash. I'm just going to get sick for both of them.
Yeah. So, just a heads up to everybody out there, get the shot, but then plan to not have a day.
Yeah, regardless which ones you're getting, plan for the next day to be nothing besides rest, hydration, all that stuff. But Sean, how are you doing?
We're both kind of hanging in there. I think we're both feeling the doldrums of work right now, just that drum beat. And I am certainly looking forward to, playing card games in person with people, hopefully in May. It may or may not be, probably won't be as much Pokemon, but, playing some card games with people in May would certainly lift my spirits. So that's exciting.
For work conundrum, if for those of you on YouTube, because you could watch this podcast on YouTube if you want to see Sean and I's faces, reactions, etc., you will tell that there's light outside. Speaking of work, I realized at like midnight last night that the soccer game that I'm doing today, because we have our conference championship starting today, at home. I realized that the game is during our normal podcast recording time, so I'm like, oh, Sean. But I'm also missing class tonight because of the soccer game. So
it's a weird...
Stay in school. Stay in school.
I feel like
listeners.
I feel like Jake, you and I are both on a similar timeline of like when the summer hits, like June, both of us should be like, not free of responsibility, but like much more free. And that'll be so exciting.
It'll be so much more nicer in June.
Oh yeah.
And man. But I'm still going to have to answer the question, Jake, what are you going to do after graduation? I'm like, I do whatever. Whatever happens.
Pro Twitch streamer. That's all. That's all you need.
You know what is happening in June though, Sean?
What?
The introduction of Chilling Reign.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
That's right.
The Silver Lance Black Jet sets from Japan were released out in Japan this past weekend. It was after the pod, between last pod and
it's always after the pod. Like I feel like we release on Tuesday and news breaks on Tuesday or Wednesday every time.
Yeah, well that's why we release on Tuesday morning, because everything else happens like Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night, like that type of thing. But anyways, that set as a release. So today's plan is simple. Talk about the set, talk about the different cards that were introduced. Some of them we already knew about, but some of these new ones are kind of interesting, Sean, because holy cow, you may have seen some of my Twitter reactions to some of these cards if you follow me on Twitter. But Sean, we got something else before we need to do that though.
The podcast review.
We do.
All right, let me hop into that so people can see what we're talking about. Jake, I think, did I read the one? No, you read the one last week.
Yeah, I read it because it was ADP lives rent free in my head, and I thought it was hilarious.
All right. Well, I'll read. I mean, it's hilarious and sad. I will read this one. So this one is from Oscua24. I recognize that name. Somebody who tunes into the Twitch and YouTube and stuff. 5 stars, an amazing podcast. As a semi-competitive player, I find that this is my top Pokemon podcast for getting my weekly news about the card game. Well, we appreciate that. I would really recommend this podcast to anyone who is interested in the card game. Even if you have no competitive experience, this podcast does a great job at getting you into the competitive scene. Also, check out Gyroshan's YouTube channel and Twitch. Like, subscribe. I mean, I like the shout out there, Oscu. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
No love for Jake's Twitch and YouTube.
Well, I mean, I get love for the YouTube, right? Can't wait for the podcast to be uploaded on YouTube.
That's right.
I mean, this was made before the YouTube
announcement.
Was the YouTube uploads, but still a shout out nonetheless. I would like to say.
Oh, but here. Thank you, Jake and Sean, for helping me get back into the Pokemon trading card game, and I can't wait for the podcast to be uploaded to YouTube. Huzzah! There we go.
Huzzah!
So this is one of the many the reviews that we got of people who wanted the podcast to get on YouTube. So there we go.
Yeah, when we went from like 12 to 35.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's absolutely absurd, the support. Absolutely absurd. And thank you to everyone who's also been watching on the YouTube. We don't have any comments this week, but the episodes should be staying upload now that I don't feel like I'm gonna die. But anyways.
Yeah, but yeah, like Jake said, we could just jump into the only topic for today. I know we said last week that we were gonna have like a series, and that is still the plan. But
it just takes time to plan it.
Yeah,
I mean, when Sean mentioned it, that was literally like one of our first it's probably like our second conversation about the idea of the topic. So it's just in the works, and with Sean and I's schedules, we gotta find time to interview people, and that's tough. So,
but luckily, Pokemon is bailing us out by announcing this sat review today to give us something to talk about.
We knew this was coming.
Yeah, we did. We knew it was coming, but it's nice that it happened this week.
Again, these cards will be part of the Chilling Reign set that release on June 18th for the rest of the world. We're getting this off of PokeBeach.com for those of you watching on YouTube, and also for those of you listening, the translations are present on there. It is a split set. Like it has been for several of the last few sets. Silver Lance and then
Jet Black Spirit.
Yeah, those two. So Sean, what's the first card you want to go over?
I mean, I think we can go down the line. Now, I will say this is a blind review on my part. I mean, I've seen a couple of these cards here and there, but I'm actually not terribly familiar. So if I'm skipping over any single prizers, Jake, that you think are particularly interesting, stop me. But I'm just going to go in order here. The grass type ones all feel kind of trash. Are there no grass type Vs in Silverlands? No, there's not. Wow.
Nope.
Okay, well, I will say the first one that I would look at is Volcanion V. Oh my gosh. Okay, there's the ad. Volcanion V. It's the first attack is trash, right? Two fire, one colorless.
First attack 50. Is bad. You'd rather just use Victini VMAX.
Right, exactly. But a 2-prizer that can do for 3 energy, 2 fire and a colorless. And also this is a single strike. So you can modify the damage with single strike energies. You can attach energies with Houndoom. And there's another energy that comes in, in the set, I believe, after this one in Japan. That is, I think, is it a rainbow energy for single strike?
Yeah, basically? it's a rainbow energy. So it's not rainbow energy like rainbow energy that we've seen in the past, but it's an every color energy.
So I think that might be this Pokemon may have to wait for that. I mean, obviously we have Welder, but this is super interesting. And the second attack does 100 plus damage if it has 10 damage counters or more on it. The attack does 150 more. So 250 damage that if you can get 1 damage counter on this dude, you might be able to figure out a way with Spiritomb and Jink shenanigans to do 250 damage turn 1. Maybe even if you have like a single strike energy in hand, you could do 200 and single strike to 30 more, right?
20.
So you could do 270. You could Oko a tag team turn 1 with this Pokemon. I think there's a Spiritomb Jinx
you have to have 10 damage counters, not 1. Did you say 1?
10 damage counters.
Yeah.
That's me being wrong. I thought I just read that as 10 damage.
Pokemon always talks in damage counters.
Okay, so maybe not turn 1.
It's definitely like, I mean, I see what you mean though, like pairing up with Spiritomb like Spike Month or whatever, formatted. it's just weird on like a welder build of that kind of deck, how you would do that. Maybe you just like replace the Spiritombs with like Volcanion and add welders, right? You have so many switching effects, you know, you can still have Spikemuth.
Yeah, I
But
mean, you could.
I just like we've seen this effect of like if it has X amount of damage counters on it, do more. You know, Giant Bomb was a card, Sean.
Yeah.
Giant Bomb didn't really see play at all. I mean, and maybe it did in some niche situations in like Dragapult. But I don't really see it. Everything just hits too hard. Everything just gets O code, especially when you only have 220 HP. Like I just I don't see it. It'd be cool, but I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, now that you pointed out that it was damage counters and not damage, I feel like this is doo doo
You
because
feel like you've been lied to.
I do, because I'm looking at this going, well, how often is it going to survive at 220 HP and have 10 damage counters on it, right? Like, you have to do the damage to yourself in order to actually get this attack off. But I will say, maybe there's a world in which this works. Maybe there's a Donphan deck or a Spiritomb Jinx, or some deck in the future that can put this all together. And 250 for 3 energy, or more with the single strike energy, like there is something to that. I will say that.
Yeah, I mean it is good. Like that is good output.
Yeah.
But I just don't know like how we get there and if we can like consistently get there.
Yeah. Jake, what do you think about this this Cinderace? I feel like Cinderace is it's a card that actually there's been a couple of good Cinderaces, one in particular from Sword and Shield base. But I feel like this one, if I'm reading the ability correctly, this one feels like a really good addition to, like, maybe you do 2 and 2, right, of the Sword and Shield Cinderace. This feels pretty good. What do you think, though, of this Cinderace?
I think that it's pretty all right. I mean, when you talk about that rogue/budget deck, like you were saying, of the Cinderace with the ability, it's like grab 2 fires from the discard or something and attach it to this Pokemon when it's moved to the active. Is that what it is?
Yes, exactly. Libero. That's the ability.
Yeah, with the Libero ability, that's the starting game Pokemon. This is the late game Pokemon, because with Crisis Power doing 30 or more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon for each prize card your opponent has taken. You're a single prize deck. If you can find out a way to stay on that single prize track, whether that is using GXs early and then Giovanni's exiling, whether that is, just not doing that at all, finding some other way to make sure that you always hit welder. I mean, I think this would be a fine like budget deck. I think this would be a fine, fun deck to play that you could win games on ladder with.
Yeah. I'm looking at
its
this.
attack. I look at its attack. Sorry, Sean.
Oh, go ahead.
I look at its attack and it reminds me of Victini VMAX. It's a deck that doesn't need welder. Gustavo Wada made top 20 of I think it was like a 400-person tournament a couple weeks ago with 3 welders in a Victini VMAX deck. Like it's two energy costs. Pretty awesome. Stage 2, and 170 is, I think, something snipes for 170. No, Cram is 160.
Cram is 160. Yeah, Naganadel is the 170, but that'll rotate eventually.
Yeah, but we don't really ever see Naganadel outside of Mewtwo. So I wouldn't really consider that a factor. But anyways, yeah. I think it's a really cool card.
I think what makes this for me particularly good is the other Cinderace does 190 for each attack. So you 2-shot a VMAX Pokemon with that pretty easily, assuming there's no Cheryl shenanigans. So you get 1/3 prizer down that way. And assuming you're playing against a deck that runs multiple 3 prizers, which is not unrealistic, to your point, especially after ADP rotates, if you can put your opponent into forcing you through a 1 prize at a time, basically getting them down to where they've taken all but one of their prizes, you're doing 150 plus 150, 300. It's a single strike, so you could put the single strike energy to do 320. Maybe a couple more damage modifiers here or there, whether that's Zigzagoon or Vitality Band. That's
Scoop
enough
of Nets. You're probably going to want to run like Well, post rotation, you don't have Jirachi from Team Up, but you can have the other Jirachi.
You got the Prism, not Prism. You have the Jirachi Amazing Rare. So
yeah,
I feel like, to your point about like a late game cleanup, a 3-1 or a 2-2 line of this, where you're like, this is my late game Cinderace. And that way you can come in out of nowhere and actually one-shot a 330, 340 HP VMAX and take your last 3 prizes. That, to me, feels like the way to do this one.
It's just really cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, Jake, what is your next one on the list?
My next one on the list is the Spiel. It's not a great card. It's got 70 HP, but oh my God. It's adorable. It's so round.
Who will be the first to turn that into an emote, you think? Because that's an emote right there.
I might. This dude's face, this little small round face. Oh my God, I love him. It's my son.
Oh, okay.
But Sean, let's scroll down over to the Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX.
Okay. Yeah, Calyrex V is doo-doo.
I mean, it's not like terrible, but
it's an evolution.
You just rather have the VMAX.
Right. So,
but
Jake,
here we go. It is 320 HP water Pokemon, weak to metal, Sean, because it's an ice Pokemon. Understandable. But 2 colorless Emperor Ride, 10 plus damage. This attack does 30 more damage for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So, you want to talk about a little bit of a counter to Eternatus? Boom Shakalaka right there. That guy does considerable amount of damage. I think, what can you have? 8 Pokemon on the bench, so that's 250 damage right there just from that.
Yeah, it's 250 more. It's 250 damage, assuming you're playing against Eternatus, but like 250 damage against Eternatus being your max just doesn't feel great.
I mean, a lot of matchups aside from like Blacephalon are two-shotting Eternatus.
Sure.
There's very few decks that are actually trying to one-shot Eternatus up to this point.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to think about the math here, right? Like, how does Eternatus has to two-shot you by putting down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if Eternatus can put down 5 dudes and use a couple of Zigzagoon pings. 5 dudes would be 150.
Or no, 5 because
five is enough.
Counts for the Eternatus, but it doesn't count for you.
So if you are the Eternatus player, you just put down 5 things on the bench. That's all you need. You two-shot this. 5 things on the bench does not two-shot Eternatus. That's, I think, what makes this not good is, like, in my opinion, like, I think this is maybe good against a fire deck that is not smart. Like, if you're a fire deck player and you fill your bench up, well, of course you're going to get blasted for that. You're going to get hit with 160 times 2, 320. 320 is going to knock out the majority of fire Pokemon, maybe a damage modifier here or there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, though, I don't think the math makes sense on this card. I think they made it underpowered, to be frank.
I think that's actually a fair point. I mean, but if you look at Max Lance, water, 10 plus damage, discard up to 2 energy cards from this Pokemon. If you do, it does 120 more damage for each energy card this way. So again, 250.
Mm-hmm. But I think 250.
You control the output this time.
Exactly. Like 250 for 2 water, nothing your opponent can play around. And if you combo this with the fact that I have to discard the energy anyways, right? So if you're playing this in a Frostmoth build and you just Cheryl every turn, assuming you're not playing against a metal deck, which, there will be metal decks still. But assuming that's not the case, yeah, cool. You take a hit, you probably don't get knocked out. You Cheryl, you escape rope, Frostmoth, retreat, right? And you're good to go for another 250. I think
knowing that you can't one-shot anything that's not fire, is it better to pair this card with like Frostmoth and Galarian Darmanitan? Just take your L to metal decks.
I like that. I like that. Just commit to the L on metal, but say I'm gonna absolutely wipe you if you're anything else.
Yeah, I mean, because deck building right now, I mean, you have to take an L to something. You cannot build the deck that has a perfect matchup spread to everything in the meta. And so like the Galarian Dharma, I mean, because the Cali Rex isn't going to be able to one-shot everything, so everything's going to either retreat or like mini heal, you know, whatever that may be. But then you just clean up.
Yeah, I really like that, Jake. That's a really good point of just saying like, double down on the thing you're already going to lose to. Just accept it, right? And know that, like, you know, in any given tournament, I don't know if I think Zacian, you know, after rotation, it's not going to be bad, right? It's going to be a good deck, but I don't think
it's going to be a good deck because it's a good card.
Yeah, but it's not going to be dominant in the same way that ADPZ was, I don't think. Because the more cards that get revealed, I think the more limited a pure Zacian build actually starts to look.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I feel like we haven't really seen in the last couple sets like much metal support, right? Aside from the coding energy, I think that's what it was.
Yeah, you get the coding, and then you get like the rusty swords for Zacian, but like, you know, once ADPZ rotates, it's like cool. You can do 260. I mean, everything else is doing 250, so it's kind of like you do a lot of damage. Don't get me wrong, but you know, it's not quite like. But then you get one shot, and so you're losing all that energy every turn.
Yeah, it's very tricky. It's tricky. Anyway, Sean, you know what else is tricky? Galarian Rapidash V over here, 210 HP, Psychic Pokemon, Psychic Kinesis, or Psychokinesis, I'm sorry. 60 plus damage. This attack does 30 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. Interesting. I think we've seen stuff like this before in like Victini V. Victini V has this kind of same thing, except it adds both Pokemon. I think Tapu Lele adds both Pokemon as two colorless energies, but
I do like the 60 plus because like that, you know, I think 60 is a nice number that you could modify around to like kill, you know, to kill the support Pokemon, right? Like the Jirachis of the world, or even like basics of a stage 2 or stage 1 single prize evolution chain. Like 60 is just a nice number to have as a base. I don't know how much play. Like if it gets played, I think it's a one of.
I think it's very interesting. I almost think it's like, so people have been talking about, because of a card that we'll talk about here soon, you know, like Alcremie VMAX or things like that. This almost to me feels like a one of tech when you face that like Centiskorch deck. You know, it's like Indeedee V. Indeedee V for a little bit was just like a tech to just bop Centiskorch, because the Centiskorch that has like 5 or 6 energies on it, I think got KO'd by the Indeedee most of the time without like a heat energy or a big charm or whatever. So this is like that same concept almost, I feel like.
Now, Jake, I have a question for you. Giant Bomb, is it 8 damage counters or 10?
I think it's 10.
I think Libra Horn, Giant Bomb, it's not a great deck, but I think it's an interesting combo because you put damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. You actually can choose, but you put them, and so if they're powering something up on the bench, right, that they're going to come into the active with, you can still target it, get it down to 100 HP, and if that's a VMAX, like that's actually a lot of damage for 2 colorless. You put a giant bomb on this, and it's got enough HP that if you want to one-shot this thing, you're going down. I actually think that sort of combination, maybe you start seeing Galarian Rapidash V, Giant Bomb in the Shadow Rider Calyrex decks, because you can attach those psychic energies, so you can use both attacks maybe. Or maybe you just put this in a completely different deck that uses different energy. I think
put it in a welder deck.
Right. I think this first attack is actually
put it in a Frostmount deck.
It's certainly a deck that an attack that I think you could play around with, and you know, then it would force people like, okay, do you play Tool Scrapper or Tool Jammer? And if not, then
which nobody does.
Yeah. Then like if you did that and you had a deck that did spread damage too, like Galarian Darmanitan or something, like I don't know, there's something to this. There's something to this. Anywho.
It's very intriguing. That's why I wanted to pull it up, Sean. But we keep talking about the Shadow Cali Rider.
Oh, that's in the next
little
half of the
dude.
set.
It's in the other. It's in the Black Jet. So we can scroll to that later if you just want to keep going down the line that we're in right now.
Yeah, let's keep going. Is there anything else in the Psychic? I don't know if this Gardevoir Banette.
I think there's some stuff. So let's pull up Curlia.
Oh, the Curlia in particular.
So Curlia, one psychic energy is called Mirage Step. Search your deck up to 3 Pokemon named Curlia and put them on your bench. Then shuffle your deck. This is a reprinted Stage 1 attack, Sean, from a Pokemon called Frogadier.
Interesting.
Greninja used to be big back when it was in standard. Greninja, Shadow Stitch, like Greninja Break. And the Frogadier was very, very good with this attack. It was called Water Dupes. It's basically this attack, except find 3 Pokemon named Frogadier and put them on your bench. It's nice because it allows you, maybe like, Sean, you can't find rare candy all the time, right? You can't find it every single time that you need to. So being able to put all of these Curlias on the field allows you to say, okay, all I need to do is find Gardevoirs then. I don't need to find rare candy Gardevoir. I just need to find one single thing. And people are very excited about this. I'm excited about this. I think it's really, really cool. I feel like more Stage 1 Pokemon need to have this ability because we've talked about a lot how like Stage 2 Pokemon just can't thrive. Stage 2 Pokemon just can't make an impact because it just takes too long to set up. This Curlia right here with this attack, I mean, that attack is a huge reason why Greninja was so successful. So I feel like I'm excited to see this again.
I think, was it you? You probably saw this on Twitter too, that like this should be the standard attack on Stage 1s.
I don't know if it should be standard, but I feel like maybe like one Stage 1 in a Stage 2 line of every set should get that.
Yeah.
Like maybe just like one Pokemon lineage should have something like this.
Because I do wonder, like there is the Gardevoir from, I want to say it's Cosmic Eclipse. That is the one that's sitting next to the trainer. And I believe it's Psychic Fighting type.
That's Gallade.
Oh, that's Gallade. Gallade can't evolve from Curlia, right?
Yes, it can.
Oh, yeah, it can. So
yeah.
I think, to me, the fact that this Curlia has 2 evolution types of Gardevoir and Gallade, I think that this is probably a good thing to be paired, not necessarily with the Gardevoir from this set, but with Gallades and Gardevoirs from other sets that either have come out or will come out in the future. So I think that might be a deck you see come back because hitting Fighting weakness is good against, Eternatus. Hitting Psychic weakness is good against the Urshifus of the world. Other than that, the deck is bad. So you might need to, I don't know, find some other.
Wow, Sean.
I mean, you're hitting 2 weaknesses, which is not terrible. There was another deck as well. There was like a Blaziken that hit, I think, Fighting and Psychic, or Fighting and Fire weakness. But I don't know. I like it. I just don't know if the Gardevoirs that exist warrant getting 3 Curlias on the bench. Do you know what I mean?
Well, Sean, if you want to scroll down to the fighting type section, you can look at the fighting type Gallade.
Gallade. Oh, there we go.
2 colorless energies. A twin energy, Sean.
Ooh.
This attack does 60 times the number of your opponent's Pokemon V in play.
I like that.
Say bye, Eternatus.
So if you're, it could be by anything. If your opponent is playing a V heavy deck and has 5 benched and 1 in the active, it's the number of V in play.
Remember that that Crobat is going to be the only like big time support Pokemon, and so people are going to start maybe putting Kricketune V as well in their lists post rotation.
I'm imagining a deck in the future that's kind of like Sword and Shield on version of Pikarom, where Pikarom doesn't really play any non GX or Vs. So when GXs are gone and only Vs are left, if there's a deck that's running a bunch of Vs and doesn't have any other Pokemon on their bench, and they bench lock themselves, this is going to do 360 damage, which is enough to knock out anything. So
yeah, literally anything.
That I'm okay. That Curlia.
Now do you see why I like Curlia?
I do. I think that actually might make for a really interesting Gallade deck where maybe you have 3 of this Gallade and 1 of the other Gallade just in case you want to hit Psychic Weakness. Although I think it's only 120, so I don't know if the Psychic Weakness actually matters. It just may not do enough damage. But yeah, this is nice. Okay, you've convinced me.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool card. And Twin Energy is tough, Sean. Twin Energy is tough. But let's look at the big Sandaconda VMAX, Sean, because my Sandaconda don't want nothing unless you got sleeves, hun.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to say this artwork, I don't love Sandaconda, but this artwork is very nice.
His artwork's really cool. It'll pair well with that Sandaconda V promo alternate with the radiator, Sean.
Oh, yes.
Your favorite alternate art ever printed. But we got Sand Pulse for 1 fighting energy, 60 damage. Its attack also does 20 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So a little bit of spread for 1 fighting energy, which is pretty all right, in my opinion, getting that damage everywhere. Then fighting colorless, G-Max Cyclone, 180 damage. Move any number of energy from your Pokemon to your other Pokemon in any way you like.
I like this. Because
being able to move 3 energy, Sean.
Well, you could have 2 Sandaconda VMAXs, and you could Cheryl this all day, which is like, I'm going to hit you for 180, move all the energy to a bench Sandaconda VMAX, right? And that way, like, if you hit me, if you're not able to boss up something else, if you hit me, I just Cheryl the one you just hit, escape rope, switch, whatever, G-Max Cyclone with the other, and just kind of rinse and repeat. And 180 is a very good number. I think that's, for me, like, when you talk about doing like 240 damage, like, those are good numbers, don't get me wrong. But like, I think the minimum amount of damage you should be looking for on a 2-shotting VMAX is 180 now. And that's also why Malamar VMAX, if anyone can ever make it a consistent deck, it does 180. And it's just, that's such a good number. So, and the spread with the telescopic sight, you could do 60 to the active and 50 to all the benched if they're GXs or Vs.
Yeah.
So I really do like the different ways that you can play around with this.
It's definitely very interesting in my opinion. I mean, if you could even, like, if you want to like do setup spread stuff, you can just consistently, like, so you use that G-Max Cyclone, hit the active, and then you go into one that has just 1 energy, put pile 2 on the other one, and just keep doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's a little bit of flexibility with this deck. Aggro, we'll see if aggro survives. It's definitely been on the rise in the meta. We're not really talking about the meta this week, but Mewtwo's been on the rise.
And
it's like different
every version of Mewtwo, yeah. I think because
it's very, very weird.
I think what people are realizing is that there's only like 2 GX decks now outside of Mewtwo that are really in the format, and that's like Pikarom. And in Pikarom, I don't know, you don't always use the GX attack in Pikarom. It just depends on the matchup. And then you have ADPZ, which revolves around the GX. But other than that, you have this mechanic in GX attacks that no other deck is taking advantage of. And it feels like the Mewtwo deck is like, okay, if no one else is going to use GX mechanics, I'll use that GX attack mechanic. So.
Exactly. But you know what is a mechanic that shouldn't be on Pokemon Vs and should just be on regular baby Pokemon, Sean?
What is that?
Liepard V. Liepard V with the ability Concealing Claw. Once during your turn, when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you may discard 1 Pokemon tool card attached to any Pokemon in play, yours or your opponent's.
What? Why would you play this?
This is literally like
Tool Scrapper.
Yeah, it's either a tool scrapper or B, an ability that should be put on like a stage 1 like baby Pokemon, if anything.
what were they think like? It's not a tool scrapper. It's a tool crapper. It's a worse tool scrapper because you only discard one. You have to commit a
Yeah.
bench space to a 2-prizer. Like what? Oh, the only benefit to this, is that you have Shadow Reaper, which is you may return this card, Pokemon, and all cards attached to it to your hand. Which I'm like, okay, maybe there is a
Why
world.
would I don't see why I would do this.
I mean, it seems like it's a better Eldegoss in like the damage output and the ability to like get rid of the card from your bench, but it's 3 energy, and I'm just like, I don't know what decks would run this that have the ability.
This would have to
all this
be
energy.
a specific Galarian Moltres and like dolls.
Yeah.
Which dolls end up leaving post rotation anyways.
It just feels like, yeah, to your point, it feels like a long way to go to remove one tool card when like just play tool scrappers. I don't know, man.
Yeah, somebody at the Pokemon Company really likes Liepard. They were like, we have to make this Liepard somewhat good.
We have to make people at least consider it, and then immediately
we have to
realize
make
how
people
bad
at
it
least
is.
read this and think that it's okay. Because Liepard's
my
fantastic. I do like Liepard though as Pokemon.
Just
that card is just weird.
All right. Is there anything else in this set? I heard that
that guy right there, Porygon Z, Sean.
Porygon Z.
I like this.
I love this art too, by the way. It's great art.
Oh yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic art.
But
Komiya does a really good job with the different arts in the Pokemon trading card game, in my opinion.
So this one, it's really the ability, right? Which is once during your turn, when you attach an energy from your hand to this Pokemon, you may leave the opponent's active Pokemon confused. That would be super annoying. You know, like this. I wonder if this is something where like you don't even. Have people talked about why they think this is so good outside of the annoyance of it? Like, is there a combo with this that I'm not?
I think there's not only like this and the Super Beam, 170 damage, discard 2 energy. You compare that with like triple acceleration. I believe somebody had mentioned something about Shock Lock.
Okay.
With this and expanded. I mean, obviously it does. It's not 100% shock because you're confusing instead of paralyzing, but it's another way to go ahead and do that.
I think if there was an item lock card, like maybe if you paired this with like an Omastar concept where, you know, they can't play escape ropes or switches. And if you use like tool scrappers and stuff like that to give them like too much retreat cost, to me, that would be the thing you'd have to pair this with. Because right now they reprinted escape rope. And I do think that confusion, if items are still an option for your opponent, is just, it's not really that useful in my opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely like not the best card in the world. Like I don't think it's as, I honestly don't think it's as good as Gallade. But it's very cool. It's very cheeky, Sean.
It is. I mean,
you know what else is cheeky? Scroll down one more to that Teddy Ursa.
Oh, okay.
Oh man, absolutely adorable.
Just cute art.
That's the Ursa ring, Sean.
Oh, sorry, that's Ursa ring. This is Teddy Ursa. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. Pokemon cards are so cool.
I feel like the person who did this, it feels like a very similar art style to this feel. Actually, I want to try that Mizue. Let's see if this feel is the same guy, because I'm gonna make a guess that it is. Let's see here. Oh nope, it's not the same illustrator.
Nope.
Okay, well, anyways, is this Tornadus V and VMAX combo, Jake? Is there anything about this that you are excited about, or is it just bad?
I feel like Tornadus V is really weird. So you look at the V blow through. We've actually seen this attack on Tornadus before. This was an attack that was put on Tornadus EX. I think it was like Dark Explorers that set way back then. But in blow through on the EX, it was 30 plus 30. This one is 20 plus 20. Now, Tornadus EX, even though that one, the 30/30, costs one more colorless, double colorless was in that format in like a 7-year span, pretty much. We don't have anything in this format to do that same thing, so they just knocked it down one. But it's still like Pokemon are way higher in health. There's VMAXs that are absurd amounts of HP.
Yeah, this one, like the first attack, it just feels like there's enough, at least in the current meta, and this always could change, but right, there's enough stadiums that you can play yourself that would just be better than using this attack. Chaotic Swell is rotating, so like the super annoying stadium is leaving the format. And I just don't see a reason. Like if we're looking at the VMAX here too, the VMAX here, interesting art. I don't really love Tornadus as a Pokemon, but interesting art.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, but it's so like why?
It's for four colorless energy. It does 120, and if there's a stadium, it does 120 more, and you discard the stadium, which is like 240 for 4 energy. That's conditional. Just feels like
it seems bad.
Yeah. So
you can't even put a triple acceleration on it and be good. Remember when people were screaming that Charizard VMAX was gonna be like so broken because 5 energy it did like 300 damage, but you had to like welder and attach triple acceleration. Remember when people were saying how broken that deck was gonna be?
I mean, I thought it was. I still think that I still think it's not as bad as people think. It's just not good enough for people to even bother playing it.
I just think it's bad.
All right. Well, I think that I genuinely do think that you could build a deck that would be halfway decent. But again, it's just one of those cards that like people just don't. I think it's underplayed for the value it could bring. But
I would rather play Maractus.
Rather flip them coin. I mean, Maractus Cherim is something. That's something.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. But Sean, let's scroll down over to the tool cards. We got Imposing Helmet.
Oh, we got the Survival Kit.
Yeah, we have Survival Kit. Look at the bottom 3 cards of your deck and place them on top in any order.
I think this is a really nice counter to Marnie.
I could see that. You only get to see 3 though. And how many times are you getting Marnied when your hand is so small?
Yeah, you may not be getting Marnied all that often, but I will say like there are. I don't know. I like this though as an option to recover the thing that Marnie puts on there because this is an item, right? So like you could just play this, and then if you have Jirachi Amazing Rare or even Jirachi Team Up now, right? Like you at least have a shot at getting one of the pieces that you lost with a Marnie back. Now, do you actually put this into any decks? Like, I don't know if it warrants taking up deck space yet. That's, I think, the biggest problem.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I don't see it, Sean.
Yeah, I think that's, but I do like that Pokemon at least printed something that has the potential to counteract Marnie, which is super frustrating. So.
Imposing Helmet, though, Sean. When this Pokemon attaches, your active Pokemon is damaged by an opponent's attack. Choose an energy attached to the attacking Pokemon and return to your opponent's hand. I think it's interesting.
Yeah. I
don't think it's great.
I mean, a single energy getting sent back to hand, and it's after they've attacked. So I'm like, okay, sending 1 energy back after they've attacked, unless it's an attack that also discards energy, all they do is just reattach, right? Unless you have
but you have different cards like Team Yelgra, you have different cards like Marnie, you have different cards like Stamp for now.
That's true. So yeah, I think you would have to pair this with
Crushing Hammer.
Gross. But like I think Stamp, Hammer, Yellgrunt. So this would I think be, not horrible in a energy denial deck. But I think that it's nicely balanced in that it goes back to hand and not discarded.
Mm-hmm.
because at least then it's because I think those energy denial decks, the thing that they want to do more often than not is discard the energy. So I think I would start to guess that like this is actually not as good as it seems for those decks, because you can't be a pure stall mill deck with this. You would have to be a control deck, which is like, the like the Malamar VMAXs of the world, Trevenant Dusknors of the world. You have to be a deck that's going to hit hard enough to where you can win by knockout if you're going to play this card.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's very interesting.
Yeah.
But Sean, you know what else is interesting? We got Rose's uncle, or Rose's brother, or Rose's doppelganger.
Are we skipping over a couple of these single scroll stabs?
Yeah, we're skipping over. I was looking at the clock and.
Okay, yeah, let's go over to which one are we looking at?
Peony.
Okay.
Search your deck for up to 2 trainer cards. Discard your hand and search for up to 2 trainer cards. Put them in your hand, then shuffle your deck. Very interesting. We've seen Rose that discards the hand and attaches 2 energies from the discard onto a VMAX Pokemon. This one is almost like a greens, except when you greens, you sacrifice your entire hand in the process.
Yeah, I mean, I come back to like greens is not as good right now because Barney.
Greens has been on the rise, Sean. Greensard, Centiskorch green.
You can call it on the rise all you want, but like Marnie's
greens on greens on greens.
The second anyone starts playing greens in quantity, Marnie comes right back and everybody feels bad. So unless here's the difference, right? Greens is good because it can go get you specific things that you can use that turn. But Peony, because you discard your hand to get those 2 trainer cards, you would have to combo this with like a Crobat play in order to build your hand back up, because otherwise like the same thing I tell people with greens now, you can't expect to have those cards in hand next turn. So either you're using this to get cards that win you the game that turn, or you use this to like, you have a dead hand and you just need to draw. And for whatever reason, you played this and not research in your deck. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's interesting. Maybe
it's a weird mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the mechanic, and maybe there's like, I'm sure there's decks that like to play with 0 cards in hand, right? Like,
Gramble.
Yeah, Gramble is an example, and I feel like there's other decks that are being like other cards that have been printed more recently that are like that have similar mechanics of like if you have no cards in hand or. So I think this is a really good card for those decks, because what you can do is just say, okay, I'm going to go get a quick ball and something to quick ball away. Quick ball for nothing. So actually, this is a perfect card for that kind of deck, especially. So.
Man, it's weird. Sean, is there anything else? We could talk about Path to the Peak again. I think we've already talked about that.
It's
the
broken.
stadium card. Each player's Pokemon in play with the rule box has no abilities. Can't wait to throw bad under Path to the Peak, Sean.
And I will say this too. Path to the Peak's artwork, it's all just white. At least with Power Plant, it had very distinctive artwork, even if it was boring. This, I could easily see you just your eyes overlooking that this card is even on the table because it's just all white. So
there's like, oh,
I forgot. I didn't see that. I will call out one other trainer, though, Flannery. Choose a special energy card attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon and any stadium card and discard them. Because it's also a single strike card, there's those cards that let you search for single strikes, right? No, that's Octillery that lets you go get a rapid strike.
Octillery does rapid.
Okay, so still, I think this is interesting in terms of like it's a guaranteed energy, not just back to hand, but removal card. I think, again, if you want to talk about like Team Yell Grunt combos, I think this is a really good card to combo, especially because like I think Special Energy is going to be very popular. I think more so than at any time that I've played in the past, Special Energy is just super popular in anything except like, welder decks, basically. So this could be pretty filthy.
It'll be interesting. There's your Impact Energy, Sean. Provides every type of energy, only one at a time. It's a single strike energy, but the Pokemon can no longer be poisoned.
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
It's more for the energy, or more for the every type of energy. You can power it up with Houndoom, but
that's
courtesy of Tony Lay, you can use it for the single strike roar ability on Houndoom, but you cannot earn a vitality it.
Okay, yes. Whether or not it would be possible. Okay, so you can't use Earn a Vitality to get it back, but you can use Houndoom. So I think that's what makes this card particularly useful, because like you could use this as that fire energy on the Turtonator, or as darkness energy on Tyranitar or whatever. So I really like that combo with the Houndoom. And I think somebody was saying buy your gold Houndooms now, because they're going to be
Man, I just like just single strike Urshifu has been so fun to play.
What else? So yeah, we're moving on to the Jet Black Spirit stuff.
Do we have time for it?
Yeah, we got. Well, do you want to hold off, or do you want?
We could make this like a
two-parter.
Yeah.
All right.
Just looking specifically at those cards, and then next week, because I mean, Sean and I are on a little bit of a time crunch.
We are. We spent a lot of time, but hopefully you enjoyed one half of Silver Lance and Jet Black Spirit, the Silver Lance part. And
I mean, I didn't think we were going to take so long on the cards, but I mean, there's good discussion, and we even left out some cards in that set. There's still plenty of cards for you to look at. We just pointed out a couple of them. But yeah, we were looking at that on PokeBeach.com. Sean?
Yeah.
Is there anything else we have to talk about?
No, I mean,
or is there anything that we wanted to say?
I think there's the possibility that we might take next week off.
Or we might have to, yeah.
Yeah, we may have to. Just Jake's schedule, especially, like, potentially if the teams that he's covering do very, very well, then Jake will be occupied and out of town for a few days.
I'll be like 4 hours away for like 5-6 days. So we don't know. Just play everything by ear. Sean may do Silver Lance by I probably
Blackjack. No, I wouldn't do it by myself, Jake. I need your thoughts on these cards, and I need you to correct me when I think something is better than it is. You to be like, Sean,
only one damage counter. Whoa!
You could do 250 turn one, bro. This is broken.
I remember when one damage counter was very effective in Pokemon cards. All right, Grandma, time to go to bed.
10 damage counters. That's all the damage counters Charizard could have.
Charizard is still bad except for Reshizard. Greenzard's kind of back.
Can we reprint Pokemon Breeder, please? Please, God, Pokemon, just reprint that.
Didn't they do that in Pokemon Breeders Nurturing?
No, Pokemon Breeders Nurturing lets you get an evolution, 2 evolutions from your deck and evolve them. But Pokemon Breeder lets you go from a basic up to a stage 2 on that turn.
Oh. Sean, that would be too powerful. That would make stage 2s relevant again. Yeah. That's too powerful.
No, just please do it. Just please do it. Anyways, I think we can end it with that plea to Pokemon.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to the Metapod Pokemon TCG podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. Whether you're watching this on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. Atrocious Gameplay on YouTube to find the podcast, or you're listening on any podcasting platform that is your favorite. We appreciate you as always. Sean, have a great rest of the day.
All right.
See you later.
Deuces.